Now let's turn and look at the European Medicines Agency and get an idea of a little bit more about what it is and how it's organized, so you can compare it to what we've learned recently about the organization, the impact, the funding that goes on at FDA. The European Medicines Agency is an institution of the European Union. It was founded by a regulation. As you remember, a regulation is a law at the European level in 1995. Its remit is human drugs, animal drugs, vaccines, and biopharmaceuticals. It does not regulate devices. It does not regulate clinical trials. It does give scientific advice. It does not regulate food or tobacco or cosmetics. It really, as its name implies, it is a medicines agency for human and veterinary medicines. As we learned in the last module, as opposed to an agency where the activities all occur primarily within the agency and with staff who are located within the agency, the European Medicines Agency is really a coordinator of a large European network of member state national regulatory authorities who have many roles to play both at the national level and within this EMA network. As we learned in the last module, this agency has evolved from the beginning of European pharmaceutical legislation about 50 years ago. The most recent iteration was developed in 1995. It is a network of NRAs, and it has many, many committees that we began to talk about last time that actually do a large amount of the scientific and assessment work that goes on, and it is these committees that make recommendations to the Commission on whether or not a product should be authorized within the European Union. Within the European system, there are several significant players that I think it's important for people to know about and to remember as they look further and further into the kind of work that the European Medicines Agency and the European Commission do in overseeing the safety and efficacy and quality of drugs in the European Union. At the European Commission level, as you remember, this is where the policy and the final authorization for products in Europe is given. There is a commissioner. Now here again we have one of those situations where we use a word, an English language word in the United States to mean one thing, and in the European Union we use the same English language word and it means something quite different. In the European context, a commissioner is the equivalent to the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the commissioner of the Directorate General for Health and Food Safety, which goes by its French acronym Santé, is actually a member of parliament and a minister from one of the member states who is brought into the European cabinet to serve as the commissioner of this Directorate General. So Directorate General is the European term that our closest comparison would be a department, and commissioner, our closest would be the Secretary of HHS. Within the Commission, there is a Director General who reports to the Commissioner, who is responsible for the entire Directorate General, but is the senior-most career officer. The Commissioner generally has an appointment of 5 years, as each commission lasts for 5 years in the European system, whereas the Director General, as a career officer, has an ongoing appointment within the European Civil Service. There is also a Director for Health Systems and Products to whom EMA does not specifically report, but to whom EMA has a very close relationship, because whereas the European Medicine Agency is the agency that coordinates the scientific assessment and the scientific recommendation, clearly the policy aspects of medicines regulation and the final authorization of medicines in the European system have to go through this European Commission system that I've just outlined. When you look at the European Medicines Agency, they have a chief executive who reports to a management board. And interestingly, the management board is generally made up of the senior executives of the national regulatory authorities. There can be other people on the management board, but the management board is one of the ways in which the national regulatory authorities are able to assure that their voice and their expertise is heard within the greater, larger pan-European system. We've mentioned several times this Committee on Human Medicinal Products. There is a chair of that particular committee. The committee is made up of representatives from each of the member states, plus a handful of other representatives who are chosen by the Commission to make sure that the committee has a broad scientific background so that it can deal with the various issues that are brought to it. Within the EMA, there is a head of human medicines evaluation who is the primary person overseeing the coordination of all of the various work that we've been talking about with these committees and the interface with the Commission on the recommendations that go forward. And there is a head of inspections in human medicines pharmacovigilance who is the person responsible for coordinating the inspections that are done both at the time of marketing authorization assessment and also once a product is authorized to assure that the manufacturing processes stay up to good manufacturing practices.